I wasn't planning on finding anything strange that evening. It was just a routine walk. After a long day, the air crisp, with the chill of the night. The streetlights flickered slightly as I passed them, their dim glow barely illuminating the empty sidewalk. That's when I saw it, a phone lying right on the edge of the road. It looked old, maybe early 2000s, with a cracked screen and worn-out buttons. But the strangest thing was that it was turned on. A faint glow pulsed beneath the shattered glass, almost like the device was breathing. I hesitated, then picked it up. It was oddly cold, like it had been sitting in a freezer, not on the warm pavement. Curiosity got the best of me. I pressed one of the buttons. The screen flickered, but nothing else happened. No messages, no contacts, just a plain black background. Maybe someone dropped it? I figured I could check for any owner information later, so I slipped it into my pocket and continued walking. That night, as I was getting ready for bed, the phone rang. A shrill, old-school ringtone echoed through my small apartment, making my heart jump. I fumbled for the phone, half expecting to see an unknown number. But there was nothing. No caller ID, no digits. Just a blank screen displaying an incoming call. I hesitated before answering. The second I pressed the button, a voice whispered on the other end. Low, rasping, almost mechanical. You need to return it. A chill ran down my spine. Return it, I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Who is this? Silence. Then, in that same eerie whisper, the voice said, Before it's too late. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I kept hearing that whisper. Before it's too late. I tried to ignore it, convincing myself it was a prank or a coincidence. But the phone refused to let me forget. At exactly 3:13 a.m., it rang again. Same shrill, outdated ringtone. Same blank screen. My breath caught in my throat as I hesitated before answering. Hello. My voice was hoarse, my hand gripping the phone tighter than necessary. Silence. Then the whisper returned. Return it, before it finds you. A cold shiver ran through me. Before what finds me? I demanded, but the line went dead. I stared at the phone, my mind racing. This had to be a joke. Someone was messing with me. But as I placed the phone back on my nightstand, the screen lit up on its own. A single message appeared. You don't have much time. I felt the air in my apartment shift, like something unseen had just stepped inside. The room seemed darker, the shadows stretching unnaturally. My instincts screamed at me to get rid of the phone, but something held me back. I needed to understand what was happening. Who did this phone belong to? And why did I have a growing sense that I was in danger? I grabbed my laptop and started searching for any reports about missing phones or strange incidents in my area. But nothing stood out. It was just an old, abandoned device, yet it felt like it was watching me. Then, just as I was about to shut my laptop, a new notification popped up on the phone screen. A location. No name, no explanation. Just coordinates. I shouldn't have gone. I should have tossed that cursed thing into the nearest river and never looked back. But I didn't. Instead, I grabbed my jacket, took a deep breath, and walked out into the night. The night air was thick with an eerie silence as I followed the GPS coordinates. The streets were deserted, and each step I took felt heavier, as if I was walking into something I couldn't escape. The location led me outside of town, down a winding road I didn't recognize. After about 20 minutes, I found myself standing in front of an old, abandoned building. It looked like it had been forgotten by time. The windows were shattered, ivy crept up the crumbling walls, and the wooden door hung slightly ajar. A motel, or at least it used to be. The phone vibrated in my pocket. I pulled it out with a shaking hand. Another message. Room 27. My pulse pounded in my ears. This was insane. Why was I even entertaining this? But something compelled me to keep going. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was curiosity. Or maybe it was something else entirely. I stepped inside. The floor creaked beneath me as I walked down the dark hallway. The motel smelled of mildew and decay, as if it hadn't been touched in years. My flashlight flickered slightly as I scanned the peeling wallpaper, the broken furniture, the eerie emptiness. Then I found it. Room 27. The door was closed, but the handle looked clean. Too clean compared to the rest of the building. As if someone had touched it recently. I reached out and, with a deep breath, turned the knob. The door swung open, revealing a room frozen in time. The bed was made, a dusty old television sat in the corner, and a single chair was positioned in front of a window. But the strangest thing was the phone, an identical phone to the one I held, resting on the nightstand, screen faintly glowing. I stepped closer, drawn to it. The air in the room felt thick, heavy, like it was pressing down on me. Then, the screen flickered and displayed a message. You brought it back, but it's not over. I barely had time to react before the door slammed shut behind me. The sound of the door slamming echoed through the room, making my heart jump into my throat. I spun around and grabbed the handle, twisting it desperately. It wouldn't budge. It was like the door had fused with the frame. I pounded on it. Hello? Anyone there? My voice sounded small, swallowed by the thick silence. No answer. The air inside the room felt even heavier now. My chest tightened as I turned back toward the nightstand. The other phone still lay there, its screen pulsing faintly, like a heartbeat. I didn't want to touch it, but I had no choice. My own phone was dead, and I wasn't going to sit here waiting for whatever the hell this was to unfold on its own. I reached for the phone. The moment my fingers brushed against it, the screen flashed to life. A photo appeared. It was blurry, taken at a strange angle, but I recognized the subject immediately. It was me, standing in this very room. A cold wave of nausea washed over me. Before I could react, the screen changed again. This time, it displayed a message. Look behind you. My hands trembled as I slowly turned my head. The chair by the window was no longer empty. A figure sat there, unmoving. Its body was shrouded in shadow, but I could make out its shape. A man slumped forward slightly, his head tilted unnaturally to one side. My breath hitched. I couldn't move. I couldn't think. Then, the phone in my hand vibrated again. Another message. You took something that wasn't yours. Now you belong to this place. The figure twitched. The light in the room flickered violently, and the air grew even colder. I backed up against the wall, gripping the phone so hard my knuckles turned white. The figure stood up. I didn't wait to see what happened next. I lunged for the door, slamming my shoulder against it with everything I had. The wood groaned but didn't give. Behind me, I heard slow, dragging footsteps. My pulse pounded in my ears. I rammed into the door again, harder this time. A sickening crack echoed through the room, but it wasn't the door. It was behind me. A ragged breath rasped against my ear. Then the door burst open, and I stumbled into the hallway. I didn't dare look back as I sprinted toward the exit, my lungs burning, my mind screaming at me to get out. The walls seemed to stretch, the hallway growing longer with every step, but I pushed forward until I finally crashed through the motel's front door and into the cold night air. The phone in my hand went dark. I hurled it as far as I could and ran, never looking back. I should have been safe, but as I reached my car and fumbled for the keys, my own phone buzzed in my pocket. A new message. You can't escape. My fingers fumbled with the keys as I tried to unlock the car. The cold air stung my skin, but I barely felt it. My breath came in ragged gasps, my heart hammering against my ribs. I had to get out of here. Now. The phone in my pocket vibrated again. I knew I shouldn't look, but I did. You took what wasn't yours. Now we take something from you." A chill ran down my spine. I turned the key in the ignition. The engine sputtered but didn't start. "Come on," I hissed, trying again. Another buzz from my phone. My pulse pounded as I glanced down. A new photo. It was of my apartment. My front door. The lights inside were on, and a shadow stood just behind the curtain. "No," I whispered. This couldn't be happening. The car's engine roared to life. I slammed it into gear and peeled out of the motel parking lot, tires screeching against the pavement. The road stretched ahead, empty and endless, swallowed by darkness. My hands gripped the wheel so tightly my knuckles ached. I had to get home. I had to make sure. My phone buzzed again. I didn't want to look. I forced myself to keep my eyes on the road. But I could feel it. Something was watching me. I swallowed hard and stole a quick glance at the screen. A live feed. The camera was inside my apartment now. My living room. The couch. The coffee table. The dim glow of a lamp. And the figure. Standing in the middle of the room, facing the camera. My stomach twisted. I slammed on the gas. I didn't care about speed limits. Didn't care about anything except getting home. The motel. The phone. None of it mattered anymore. This thing had followed me. It was inside my home. I drove like a madman, the world blurring past me. When I finally skidded to a stop outside my building, I barely remembered the drive. My hands shook as I ran to my door, fumbling with the lock. I burst inside. Silence. The apartment was exactly how I left it. No signs of anyone. I checked every room. Nothing. No shadow, no figure. But my phone vibrated once more. I lifted it with trembling fingers. Checked the mirror. I turned, slowly, my breath frozen in my lungs. My reflection stared back at me from the hallway mirror, and then it moved. Not me. My reflection. A slow, unnatural smile spread across its lips as it raised a hand. My phone slipped from my fingers. The last thing I saw before the screen cracked against the floor was a final message. It was never about the phone.